Rule Britannia, Britannia rules the waves. Again, I wouldn't have time for this, or opportunity for this, but of course one is forced to. I'm so sorry that I this came as such a total surprise. I don't have, the flag of Great Britain so that I could wave it. And this is, mostly for the British people. Of course, nobody is ever going to see this, but, just by myself. Because of course, I want to personally, express my deep gratitude to the British people, who of course are going to have, all the shite poured onto them because of what they've done. And from my personal, view, they've taken a blow for Europe, for all of us. So this, I had to do this. But of course, even with something, okay, now it's historic. Even with something as historic as this, of course, the world is not gonna stop turning, so to speak. So of course, one has to give one's condolences, or to all the victims of the shooting in Germany. Nobody's was killed, but all the people wounded, scared. I'm so sorry. Then Zero Hedge is asking, why is no one talking about the Mexican government killing teachers and how 43 students have disappeared? I don't know. It's probably because there are so many horrible things going around, happening in the world that that nobody has time. I don't know. One should actually study Mexico a bit. I personally, I cannot understand what's going on in there. What's going on there? But at least, now I've at least talked about it, even though I don't know enough about it. Then I don't know. You get this, opportunity so rarely. But as an Ark Encounter theme park is soon to open in Williamstown, and unfortunately, I don't think Jimmy Carter should have visited the place. I think it's unfortunate to give credence to something like that, but still, what can you do? But since Ken Ham, who is the designer of the for-profit park, Ark Encounter, has said that this is the most authentic recreation of Noah's Ark in the world. You rarely get this opportunity with crazy people, but but one can honestly, for once, one can say it. Dear Ken, okay, it's not a recreation. That one has been proven. The original Noah's Ark never was. That has, thank goodness, actually been totally and absolutely proven. That's not a debatable subject. Boy, that felt good. But not as good as Brexit. Awful word, wonderful happening. So anyway, what can one say? I don't know if anything good is gonna come out. I have to. I don't know. Who are you gonna cite? Sargon of Akkad did a beautiful job describing it. I would say that there's absolutely no question that the British independence and the independence of all European countries would have been gone. That the European integration, more closely, to become a one state the United States of Europe, was quite evident. There would not have been, and we still, rest of us, not Great Britain, they're out, but the rest of us, we are in a position to lose whatever sovereignty we have left. I don't understand how can somebody deny that. And the European Union it's unbelievably undemocratic. Again, I think all the other outlets have made it very made a good case. I'm just an ordinary person. I so far at least I survive no matter what happens. I'm just watching all of it and making my own deductions. So I mean, I think it was absolutely the thing that had to be done. And now that there's going to be so much crap to follow, to rain on British people, of course one is sorry. But I mean that is exactly what is going to happen, and it probably is going to happen to us all, isn't it? Because I mean something as awful, anything, the so-called free trade, which has nothing to do with actual trade, globalization, the European Union, TTP, now TTIP, everything, it should be stopped at its, I don't know, is it at its tracks? Isn't that the expression? Probably from racing. Should be, there should be a stop put to it at the very beginning. And it's always so beautifully managed that all this crap gets in. And once you have something as awful as the European Union in place and giant corporations running a neoliberal world, to actually go back, to change it, actually correct the awful situation, it is gonna be an awful job. We're all gonna suffer. But it's not, in a way, it's not the fault of the British people who've now voted Britain out. It's actually the fault of, well, if you want to take somebody in Great Britain, I think Margaret Thatcher is a pretty good candidate. It's actually the fault of neoliberals some time ago. It's not the fault of British voters. And it's very interesting that the reaction in Europe has there's been so much in the open, by the people who are supposed to be democratically elected and represent ordinary people, not giant corporations, that the reaction has been that this is that this is an awful mistake, and that the British people should never have that Cameron is a complete twat because he allowed the British people to have a vote. And for example, the Finnish politicians, there have been some Finnish politicians who've suggested that referendums are totally useless. But whether I would argue that they are the last true form of democracy we have. So it's very interesting that the fact that this is actually democracy in working, and this was actually a vote, and the British people were asked for the first time in 40 years, their opinion on the subject. It's been completely bypassed. The first time you've had democracy on the subject for 40 years, and it's a mistake by Cameron. It's a very strange idea coming from somebody who is supposed to be, democratic European. So anyway, it is unfair and I, all I can say is that I'm so grateful to the, you know, to the British people for what they've done for us. There's nothing I can do. In Finland, for example, they are absolutely shocked that Britain is out. They have the Finnish, you know, your average Finnish person doesn't know his arse from her elbow. You know, the actual Finland being able to have their well-voiced get out of this madhouse campaign is it's miles away, so to speak, kilometers away, and you know, there's nothing I could have done, and if there were, I would, because again, I mean, I haven't heard a rational argument, you know, for anyone else except a giant corporation. I haven't heard a rational argument for the European Union anywhere, and I've followed it from the very start. It's been absolutely ridiculous. It's been difficult, undemocratic, unlawful, anything you want. It's complete and utter disaster. And one hopes now, of course. I mean, how could it? Because it was not going to work anyway unless you make it a United States of Europe. Unless you make it one country, it was not going to work. And then I have no idea how they were going to try to get Switzerland or Norway in. But it was not going to work, and that's been their difficulty, you know, being the elite. Because I mean, I don't think that any country in Europe, that citizenry has been wanting, you know, the United States of Europe, and to want to give their sovereignty away. So it has never been discussed really, but that's the only way that it's actually going to work, and otherwise it's going to fall apart. So now, when it doesn't have one of the three most important countries in Europe in it anymore, the whole thing, I cannot see how it could ever work. So it has to. I mean, or let's say that it would be quite logical for the European Union to collapse because of this. And again, I'm so sorry if somebody loves the European Union. I mean, because I love Europe. I love Europeans. I have absolutely nothing against Europe. I cannot see how the European Union has something to do with that, with loving your country and loving Europe. Can't see that. So anyway, I'm really sorry if my opinion insults anyone or terrifies anyone. But I mean, simply, I'm sorry. I've never seen, heard, or even been able to imagine anything good about the European Union, except for giant corporations and billionaires, and that's it. So for me personally, since it's, I'm sorry, I think European Union sucks. For me, this is a wonderful, lovely, hopeful time that one finally gets rid of the bloody thing, and it is now entirely thanks to the British people, who I don't know. If any of you ever see this, let me know if there's something I can do. You know, kisses, cheers.